The remarks of Cyrus Jirongo, previously a mentor to William Ruto, when he was a nobody, are shocking to say the least. Cyrus Jirongo, of course, made these remarks when the OKA leaders were meeting with the big boys in the Mount Kenya region who were interviewing presidential hopefuls and presidential probables. Cyrus Jirongo, of course, chose his words very carefully. But the long and short of what he was saying is that people are using exactly the same tactics that were used in the 2007 presidential elections. Those fateful polls. They're using exactly the same tactics for the 2022 polls. And this can only lead to chaos, according to Bwana Jirongo. What? Really? Now, it is very easy to shoot down Bwana Jirongo. It's easy. But let us get to the truth, rather than focus ourselves on the man. Because Bwana Jirongo was once a billionaire, and he lost it all. In fact, he ended up in civil jail over some of the debts he had. And he had to be bailed out by, among others, Deputy President William Ruto, who made a very hefty donation. But so did many others in the political class. We also know that Bwana Jirongo may still be bitter against the Deputy President. Because in the past, he has openly displayed this bitterness. And the fact that he is not a supporter of the Deputy President and his tactics in politics and in business. Just to remind us, Bwana Jirongo is the same person who told us that story of the Deputy President's first business deal, where Bwana Jirongo ordered some T-shirts. I believe they were campaign T-shirts for Kano or something like that. And he ordered 10,000 T-shirts. And according to Bwana Jirongo, Ruto colluded with the people in the stores. And he delivered the same 1,000 T-shirts 10 times and got paid for 10,000 T-shirts when all he was doing was delivering the same 1,000 T-shirts again and again until he reached the figure of 10,000. That's according to Bwana Jirongo. And this information is in the public domain. And so, it is possible that whatever Bwana Jirongo may want to tell us may be porojo. It's good to acknowledge that, because we are not campaigning for anybody. But having said that, in my view, Bwana Jirongo was rather convincing. Because it is not a lie that the narrative of the hustlers versus the dynasties is very divisive. It is not a lie that such a narrative is dangerous. And there are very many reasons why such a narrative can be deadly, especially with all the emotions that fly around during an election. You see, already there's resentment, of those haves by the have-nots. Naturally, those people have money. Not only do we not have money, we are suffering. Those people are close to government. The government we hate. Some of them are close friends to people in government. The people who are causing us all this suffering, etc., etc. According to Bwana Jirongo, we are having a situation where people campaigning are creating an enemy, the other people, in order to rally voters to vote for them, in order to drum up enough emotions to ensure that those voters will vote for them, without considering any other issues. And Bwana Jirongo reminded us that that is exactly what happened in the Rift Valley. Only that tribe was used in the Rift Valley. You know how those 2007 polls ended up? They caused trouble. They caused disaster in the country called Kenya. Indeed, it is true to say that many have never recovered from what happened in 2007. And many others will never, until the end of their lives, recover from what happened then. That is true. So we cannot wish it away. Never ever. Even if you are safely very far away from the trouble spots. And as I told you earlier, Bwana Jirongo was very convincing, because he started by asking the question, all these things that are happening in the Mount Kenya region, all this great concern for who is going to be the next president, has never been witnessed in our country before. And so Bwana Jirongo posed the question, what is it this time around? What is all this panic about? Many, many months to the presidential elections. And Bwana Jirongo answered the question himself. He said, people were concerned about developments in the country. They were worried that things are going in the wrong direction. And he emphasized that indeed it is true. If there's no peace, nothing else matters. And even the best well-laid plans come to naught when there's no peace. Bwana Jirongo repeated several times that we urgently need to speak to our youth. Because the things that have been planted in their heads, in the minds of our youth, are dangerous. He was still, of course, talking about this us against them narrative that has been created. The presidential campaigns, of hustlers versus dynasties. You know, it is difficult for anybody to convince me or to convince anybody who heard Bwana Jirongo's remarks that the man did not know what he was talking about. As he reminded us, that is a man who understands the history of our country very well. That is a man who understands regions in the country very well. And yes, he may be bitter, but he spoke facts. You know, one of the things that convinced me that Bwana Jirongo is on to something is the fact that he was one of the main founders, one of the main movers and shakers, one of the main architects of the notorious YK92, Youth for KANU 92 movement. that campaigned for President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi in the first ever multi-party elections since independence in 1992. We of course know that the other member of YK92, who is very prominent in Kenyan politics today, is of course Deputy President William Ruto, who in those days was just starting out. He was a nobody in those days. Jirongo knows the damage that YK92 did. He led the people doing the damage. He was the leader of the YK92 group. And therefore he is very qualified, overqualified, to identify what damage can be done now, many years later, decades later. Because humans don't change. Human nature is the same. By the way, around the time YK92 was formed is around the time that tribal clashes were invented in Kenya by the KANU regime, for political purposes. And of course that set the stage for what happened in 2007, 2008, the terrible things that happened in our country. The foundation of that was carefully laid, deliberately laid in 1992. Anyway, in my humble opinion, we should take Bwana Jirongo very seriously, all of us. And we should do our best, to try and do something. And you don't have to support any presidential candidate, to take such an initiative. Because if anything goes wrong, your favored presidential candidate, who you love with all your heart, will not help you, will not help your children, will not help your loved ones. In my opinion, we need to encourage younger Kenyans to sober up. Because many of them, at least on social media, speak very carelessly. And they speak of things they don't understand. With all due respect to our young people. Because our young people were not around in 1982. When things occurred in seconds, minutes, and Kenya became an unrecognizable country. It happened in minutes, not in weeks. Minutes. Many of our young people were not around, or they were too young. In December 2007, January 2008, when our beloved motherland almost ground to a halt. We need to remind our very well-educated, very intelligent youth, that when things go south in our country called Kenya, bringing them back to normal is quite a task. Very impossible. Will take a long time, even if there's a possibility. It is not a tap that you can turn on and turn off, when you think you've achieved your objective. No. Our precious youth, need to be convinced that there are many ways of solving a problem, but ultimately, peace is the most important thing. Whatever idea, whatever other methods used, peace must be maintained. Otherwise, you will never achieve what you think you want to achieve. Never ever. And I know history is boring. But look back into history. Ask people who know. And they will tell you things that will prove to you what I'm saying is 1000% correct. No revolution in the world achieved its objectives. And you can start with the French one. You see, we don't have a spare Kenya. We don't have a spare Kenya where we can run to when things go south. We have only one precious country. And please be careful about what politicians promise you. Be careful about the imaginary things, the castles in the air that politicians build for you with the selfish motive of getting you to vote for them. Be very careful. You know, the best illustration of this was given by the late second president of Kenya, President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, who famously said, siasa ni kama kutongoza mwanamke. Unamwambia hii, unamwambia hii, unamwambia maneno matamu, lakini akishaingia ndani ya nyumba yako umemwoa, ndo anajua wewe kweli ni nani. Moi told us that politics is like seducing mwanamke. Sweet nothings na uongo mingi. They only discover the true you when you have gained power over them. You have married them, and now they're in your house. Maybe they have 2 or 3 children. They have nowhere to go. That is when the true brutal you emerges. And that is absolutely true about politics. Please think about it deeply. And the words of one Cyrus Jirongo. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.